Hi, my name is Dr. Christine Dullahan. I'm an energy psychology practitioner, a life purpose coach, and an intuitive. And today I want to talk about the difference between the human self and the spiritual self, or the difference between ego and our true self, or the eternal self that will never change. I was inspired to make a video on this because I'm getting insights that I think it would be really, really helpful for a lot of people. Also, in sort of putting events and things in, both your individual life as well as on the grander scale of things, the collective into perspective. If you've never sort of watched any of my videos, you're new to my channel. I do a lot of videos on higher consciousness, on this ascension process, and videos that will help the individual sort of navigate the waters. My intention with these videos is to give all of us a platform for community, but also for kind of moving through this process in a loving and optimistic and positive way, because we currently are living in a very scary world. A lot of changes are happening on various different dimensions and levels, whether that be in the environment, the weather is changing, or politically. It really doesn't matter what country you live in. There's a lot of sort of polarization and a lot of us versus them mindset, a lot of fear. And so my mission here, alongside with other beautiful souls, is to sort of midwife this change in consciousness, or this shift in consciousness, and help the birth of this new golden age that is coming to Earth. And in so doing, I'm working on helping people sort of navigate their own journeys through it, and hopefully have some kind of impact in people's lives. So that's what my channel is all about. Today, I feel very guided to sort of have a little bit of a talk about the difference between our ego and our true self, or what I will call my human self, and my spiritual self. And I think this is an important topic, because I think more and more people are starting to experience sort of the discomfort that the human self, the ego self, can bring into your life, and are wanting to, or longing for, a shift into more time within our spiritual self. And as we progress as a human species, part of this shift in consciousness, which is just like a sort of like an enigmatic, sort of mystical, title, like, well, what does that mean, shift in consciousness? Well, what does it really mean? It means that we're shifting more out of our human self, our ego, and and more into our true self, or our spiritual self. In very simple words, is we're shifting away from fear, and we're shifting towards love, unconditional love. And I'll be making more videos on this as you continue watching my videos. It's like a puzzle piece. It will all click together, and you will start connecting the dots, and it will make sense. So, continue watching them. Share these videos with other people, not for my own sake. I don't care. I don't want to be famous on YouTube. I have no sense and purpose to this. My purpose really is just here to be a channel and to be a force of good, to help this shift. So let's start this movement together. Let's form a really loving, nice community, because if we can tip that 1% of people, the shift is going to go much easier. The birth is going to be an easy and joyful birth, versus a hard and long 3-day birth, in which we're all going to have to struggle through it. Okay, but going back to the topic for today, the difference between our human self and our spiritual self is really that when we're in our human self, or our ego, we primarily are driven by the emotion and the thought of fear. Okay, and as that, I just want to say something. There's different spiritual traditions, philosophies, religions that will sort of vilify, or make the ego something that's bad, that we need to shed, that we need to kind of get rid of. And I really don't believe in that. Okay, that's not where I come from. That's not what my my spiritual guidance is telling me. That's not where, where I am. This doesn't feel good and resonates with me in the body, okay? For that, I just want to kind of backtrack, because I think the ego is actually something really beautiful and very well designed, okay? And when I talk about the ego, really what I mean, as compartments of the ego is your personality, who you are as a person, the way you think, the way you feel, a lot of times how you perceive the world, how your perspectives are, your likes, your dislikes, pretty much, your personality makeup, your psychology, basically, okay? That's what I refer to when I say the ego, all right, or the human self. It's part of our human makeup, just like our body is functioning in a certain way. We have certain organs, our personalities are formed based on our psychology, and that's, again, based on, in some part, our genetics, right? That's why we are like mom and dad. So that's what I talk about when I'm talking about the human self. And the human self really, is actually not a bad thing if it's used within a balanced way, and if it's perceived, or if there's awareness around the purpose of the human self. Okay, and I will go more into that as much as I can. I might be doing a couple of videos on this, because these concepts are really big and grand, and it's very hard to put them into like 15 to 20 minute little videos and really bring them across in a way that people will understand, and it's not just sort of metaphysical gibberish that I'm kind of, saying. I really want things to be helpful, and I want you to be able to understand what I'm talking about. So, so the human self comes really from our ancestors, way, way back in the cave days, where, we lived in a scary world, where if we, didn't use our ego and the protective mechanisms of fight and flight to sort of protect ourselves and our clan from wild animals or, the weather, because we were living in caves, then we wouldn't have survived, right? So the ego is a beautiful thing. It's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us and our family safe, which is why we always say, most people operate on me and my family first. I really don't care about anybody else, right? I would say that 99.9% of people on planet Earth kind of operate on that basic level, and there's nothing bad about this. Let's not judge this. It's completely fine that we're in that mode. However, we're meant to be kind of awakened from it. Okay. Now, just briefly going into that, that's why we're seeing a lot of this us versus them mindset. Okay. Because it's really triggered right now. It's really triggered. The personalities are very triggered. Because there's a lot of shift. People are noticing the shift, whether they're aware of it or not. And so that triggers us back into wanting to feel safe, right? So our human self is triggered, and we're kind of like, oh, I don't like this. This is not what I was taught. But the world is supposed to be like this. Now it's different. Now I feel fearful. And so now I'm going to go into like fight or flight. And a lot of us are, either flighting, meaning we're retreating, we're not really going out, we're kind of depressed, or we're fighting, and that's when we see the polarization in the world, right? Where we're like, but my way is the way, and it's my way or the highway, and that's that's kind of what we're seeing. And I think the more that's kind of being triggered, more and more people are going to wake up and be like, wait a minute, really? And that's how we're going to sort of little by little, person by person, moving into this other shift, this true self, of like, people are going to start questioning, and people are already questioning. We're all already questioning, really, is that the truth though? Like, what is the truth really, right? So so the human self is a beautiful thing, evolutionary. It really got us to be kind of like the top species on planet Earth right now, right? And it protects us, and our ego is protecting us, right? If something doesn't feel right, it doesn't feel safe, the ego, the human self, kicks in, and it protects us from, first and foremost, not dying, right? But then also just, staying safe on a different basic level, having a home, a roof over our head or whatever. If something, the person doesn't feel safe, right? Our human self will kick in and be like, I don't know, I don't like this, situation, and we will walk away, versus letting them, kind of exploit us or versus harm us to a point where we're dead, right? So human self, ego, is actually something really beautiful, beautiful design. However, it gets, when it gets to an extreme where we really buy into the human self as our reality, when we really say, well, but this is how I was taught, right? Like, this is my way, this is the right way. Everybody else who does not think like my way is wrong. That's when we are kind of, where we're kind of in trouble. And that's when, the fear kicks in. The human self has a lot of emotions, like, we will judge other people. Why do we judge other people, really? We judge other people because it's shadow work, right? Because there's something about those other people that actually reminds us of ourselves. And we don't like that about ourselves, but it's much easier to judge it in others than and judging it in ourselves, and or we're really afraid that we'll become that, right? Because again, it reminds us of an aspect of ourselves or something we don't like, and so we'll judge it, because when we judge it, it's safe, right? Then that absolutely means we're not like that. And so judgment, jealousy, fear, all of these emotions that kind of contract you, where you kind of like, you get that pit in the stomach, that kind of feeling. That's how the body responds to it. Your heart rate goes up, all of those things when you become angry, even like, day-to-day things. I had this, situation the other day where my human self totally kicked in, but I was able to get myself out of it pretty quickly. I was driving my car and it was a merging lane. And I, put my blinker on, a nice driver, put my blinker on, I was merging in, and the guy behind me was having a bad day. And they thought I was doing something wrong. They just incessantly beeped their horn at me. And I just kind of, kicked into my human self, and I was like, wait a minute, I have 2 kids in the car and I was blinking, and what's your problem today? And then I was like, wow, I was just in my human self. Okay, let me just send this person a little bit of love here, because probably they didn't mean anything. I really didn't care, in their world. A lot of times people around us really don't care, right? Like, or let's put it this way, sorry. The people around us don't really matter to us. What's mattering to us is ourselves, right? So in this moment, I was just some nuisance to this person who was driving behind me, right? They didn't really mean anything. They didn't really mean to offend me per se, right? And so I saw that. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, maybe they had a really bad day. Maybe something really bad happened to them. So I'm just going to send them love, breathe deeply, and go back to my, my true self. And just kind of recognize how my human self was trying to keep me safe, because God forbid something could have, happened. So, that's sort of, I hope that makes sense in terms of like, just like an intro on what the human self does and how it's actually really helpful. It's just an issue when we are kind of caught in the illusion of thinking that our human self and our body and all that good stuff, right, is who we are at our core, because that's actually not true. Okay, who we are at our core is the spiritual self, is that eternal self. The way I personally perceive it and the way I'm guided to, some will call it the soul as well, right? Is it's like a ball of energy, right? We are really a ball of light energy that is a part and a particle of the grander all that is, higher consciousness, unconditional love, God, goddess, whatever you want to call it. It really is just a name you're placing on it, okay? It is all that, and we're all part of that, right? We've kind of like, separation is really an illusion, right? You're not separate from me. We're actually all connected. And so when you tap into that spiritual self, right? That eternal self that's just kind of inhabiting your body, then it is far easier to kind of see the illusion of all the fear-based role plays that are happening in the world right now, right? And it's really a place that we all sort of are encouraged to go to more and more. Okay, so it's really a shift from fear, our human self, our ego, to love, unconditional love, to recognizing that we are unconditional love, because we're made in the image of all that is God, goddess, whatever you want to put a name, whatever name works for you. We're really a part and a particle. We're an image of that. We are that, right? That's why a lot of religions and spiritual paths will have you repeat that over and over, that you remember that you are all that, right? And so we're kind of shifting towards that as a species, right? We're realizing that the way that we're moving through this ascension process is we're realizing that we don't really need all this fear-based stuff anymore, right? We can be all that and live sort of as heaven on earth, that golden age that has been promised by so many spiritual texts and religious texts and all of that. I mean, you can look into every single, religious tradition around the world that didn't even know each other, and they all predicted this time in space, okay? But that's really where we're going, right? And in my case, my little example of the driver, right? I was pretty quick about being able to recognize that I had kind of come into the human self, and I'm like, oh wow, look at this, my heart rate's up. I'm really aggravated. I'm kind of like, I'm taking this personally. For a second, I took it personally. I'm like, why is this guy honking at me? I was doing everything right, right? Like all these stories popped up in my head about like what I was doing wrong, and then feeling defensive toward that person. And when I started noticing that, which these days can happen pretty quickly thanks to my meditation practice and me being able to separate the human self from the spiritual self and realizing when I'm in my human self. And I was able to just let that go. I'd let it go with my breath because that connects me. Our breath connects us directly to the source. And I was able to just let it go and just send that person love and be like, hey, listen, I'm just going to not take it personally. And number one, I'm not going to judge them. And I'm just going to let it go and give them the benefit of the doubt. They had a really bad day, right? And probably were annoyed at something, but I just came in the way of that, and just let it go and send them love and hope that they will have a better day tomorrow, and maybe be a little bit more lenient with drivers in front of them or whatever else, right? But it's not my place to judge them in any way, shape, or form, because all that is also never judges us, right? They're loving. The all that is, higher consciousness, whatever you want to call it, is an unconditional loving entity, energy source, whatever, right? So we're really asked to kind of tap back into that, but not lose our ego personality, okay? And that's what I mean. When our personality is sort of in check in that way, and we're aware of it, then our personality is something wonderful and beautiful, and it is great, and it's wonderful that we all have unique personalities. And that, we all are unique drivers of this new higher consciousness movement. So that's really how we're going to sort of shift, and it's going to be happening one individual at a time. So each one of you, each one of us on this planet is really called to step into action and do their individual work. And your individual work is actually not just for you, it's for the entire earth, because as you are doing your work, you're actually putting out, the vibes like a butterfly effect, and you're inspiring others to do their work. And as you then step out and you share about this work more and more, you're inspiring others to share the work. And then I said, if we tip that critical mass, that 1% on planet Earth, then we're really tipped towards unconditional love and away from fear, right? Now, fear and love is all God, right? Because that idea of separation doesn't really, the duality idea doesn't really track. It's just a human idea again, right? But we'll talk about that another time. So I hope this was helpful. Today's video was helpful for you. If you have any questions, like I said, I really want to create a movement here with my channel. This is not about me. This is about something much greater than me. And all of us, really, it's about the human species in this planet really evolving into that unconditional love space, that 5D space, that high vibrational space. So I'm keen on creating a movement and creating a community in this love shift. So I want to be in contact with you, okay? And if you have any questions or you have any topics you're interested in that you find would, serve you and others, please reach out to me. Please, let me know these topics and we can address them. Also, if you want to collaborate, I'm always open to collaboration, okay? Reach out to me. You can find all my contact info on my website, which is itsdrchristine.com. And as always, please subscribe and share, because that's how we get this movement started, right? And I hope that you have an absolutely wonderful week. And I will see you at some point next week. All right. Bye-bye.